Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is John Campea, and this is a companion video. Now, what are companion videos? Well, I'm awfully glad that you asked. You see, every day on the John Campea Show, Monday through Friday, we save time to take live questions. However, we don't always have time to get through all the live questions that get sent in, but you sent in those questions, so I want to make sure they get answered properly in a video, so we gather them up and we address them here on companion videos. So let's not waste any time and let's start getting caught up. And we're going to start things off here today with Mason B, who writes, "Definitely Maybe is my favorite rom-com of all time." Well, that it is great. So we have been recommending movies that didn't get the love they deserved when they were in theaters, Rob and I, and giving you a chance to get caught up on some of them since a lot of us are stuck at home. And my recommendation earlier today was the Ryan Reynolds film, Definitely Maybe. I'm glad you saw it and enjoyed it, Mason. I love that movie. All right. David Rias writes, "Hey, John. Just wondering, have you ever checked out the documentary Blackfish? It's streaming on Hulu right now, and it is the 2017 documentary on orcas held in captivity at SeaWorld and other parks and their mistreatment, which has led to multiple trainers being killed throughout the 30-plus year history of these whales for entertainment. It's a tough watch, but I strongly recommend it. I have always loved whales since I was a child. The movie Free Willy was a childhood favorite of mine. Now, I can't really watch it without thinking about the whale they used. Must have suffered a lot through the making of it." All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And listen, the Blackfish thing is a complicated issue. And so I never got to a point where I ever formed any sort of solid conclusion of my own on it, because despite all the allegations made in the documentary, there's been a lot of arguments made against what was said, and a lot of refuting evidence has been provided over the years about it. And to be quite honest, I'm not saying one side is right and one side other. I'm not saying the Blackfish thing isn't real. I'm not saying it is. I just don't know. But one interesting thing that came out of the whole Blackfish debacle with SeaWorld was SeaWorld is a publicly traded company. So there are stocks, right? When you are a publicly traded company, as a company, you have a fiduciary responsibility to report to your shareholders anything that could really affect their shares or anything that could affect the stock price of their shares. Now, when the Blackfish thing was going on, there was a thing called the Blackfish effect that SeaWorld denied was happening. So, for instance, when the movie came out, attendance dropped. I think it was like 13%. I can't remember exactly, but attendance started to drop, right? And basically, SeaWorld made the statement that actually there's nothing to suggest that this drop isn't just a part of our normal business cycle. There's nothing here that suggests it has anything to do with the movie. And they're told their shareholders that, nope, the movie's having no effect on our business. However, testimony came out that executives of the company were admitting behind closed doors that, yeah, this whole Blackfish thing is killing us. This whole Blackfish thing is killing us. And so the American government, I think it's called the SEC, I could be not quoting that right, but they basically brought charges against SeaWorld for misleading their investors because the Blackfish thing was having an effect and they were denying that it was, but behind closed doors acknowledging that it was. So they eventually settled for like $5 million. I remember this was a big thing because there was a SeaWorld not far from where I was. Or not far from where I was, but a lot of my family would go to SeaWorld. So it was not far from home for me. So that got them into a lot of trouble. Again, listen, whenever a documentary comes out and tells a story with a certain point of view and a certain voice, and that's how documentaries should be done, from a certain point of view and with a certain voice. That said, there is a lot of disturbing stuff in that documentary. And again, I'm not here to point fingers or blame or a thing to anybody, but it is a fascinating one you should watch. And it is one that ultimately got them in a lot of trouble. It really did. All right, let's see. Walks with Joe writes, "Quarantine recommendation, Netflix's Castlevania." We've been talking about Castlevania a bunch on the show recently. I did a review for Castlevania Season 1. I liked it quite a bit. And then I just recently finally got caught up and finished Season 2 and is now halfway through Season 3. I'm going to start Season 3 here pretty soon, but it is enjoyable. It's not for everybody, though. Let's just be clear. The reason I don't make it like one of my recommendations is because it is a style that is definitely not going to be for everybody. There's going to be a lot of people that would see Castlevania and not like it because it's definitely a certain style, definitely tailored for a certain type of taste. But it works really well for me. I've been enjoying it myself. All right, Lowell writes, "Here's a film many haven't seen. It's a Woody Allen film starring Larry David, Evan Rachel Wood, and Henry Cavill called Whatever Works." Gotta admit, not one of my favorite Woody Allen films. Larry David is great in it. So Larry David is, I don't know if you call him a nihilist, what the proper term was, but basically everything in life is meaningless. You know, that's kind of his thing. And then he meets this young girl. She starts to live in his place. Anyway, and all goes from there. And obviously changes start to happen. Not one of my favorites. Honestly, not one of my favorites. I personally thought it was a little bit weak. However, when I do think of Woody Allen films that are underrated, I never hear, when people talk about some of Woody Allen's best stuff, I've never hear people mention Vicky Cristina Barcelona. It is, other than Annie Hall, it's my favorite Woody Allen film, other than Annie Hall. But Vicky Cristina Barcelona, I think, is his most underrated film, and definitely one you should check out. If you enjoy Woody Allen stuff, I think you should like Vicky Cristina Barcelona. All right, let's see here. We go on to Goku's on DBZ writes, or Goku on DBZ writes, all I want to say is Prince of the Universe by Queen, best franchise theme song for the best action movie ever. Highlander, P.S. Stay safe. Of course, the original Highlander is in my top 10. It's the one movie in my top 10 of all time list that makes people go, what? Like every other movie I mention, people go, oh yeah, okay, yeah. Even if it is or isn't in their list. As soon as I get to Highlander, though, people look at me funny. But it's true. Here we are, born to be kings. With the prince, I am immortal. I have in me the blood of kings. Or inside me the blood of kings, whatever the line is. Anyway, it is such a blood-pumping song. Perfect for the movie The Highlander. It's absolutely perfect for it. All right, Brian Paz writes, underrated movie, Jack and the Cuckoo Clock Heart. I'm going to tell you right now, I am not familiar with it. Let me bring it up. Hold on a second. Jack and the Cuckoo Clock Heart. It is a 2013 film that I'm completely unfamiliar with. Some say, oh, it's that animated one. Okay, I'm aware of the film. Sorry, I am aware of this film, although I never did see it. Which kind of probably goes exactly to your point. The French title, what is the French title of it? I cannot remember the French title, but I believe it was originally a French film. I cannot remember. It is voiced by, in the English, nobody that you probably would have heard of, to be honest with you. But yes, I am familiar with the film, but I never saw it myself. And if you're saying it's underrated, maybe I'll have to check it out. Thanks for bringing it put on our radar. All right. An anonymous viewer writes, Gates. I don't know what any of that means, but thank you for writing it in anyway, anonymous. Sorry about that. Suthius writes, on movies turning 10/20 while you're on break. Oh, thumbs up to that. Yeah, we did that on the show earlier today. We did a little, instead of having the 4-minute countdown clock, I played this little video, pre-recorded video I did talking about the movies turning 10 years old this week. And this week, it's hard to imagine either of them were 10 years old, but the first How to Train Your Dragon came out 10 years ago this week, and Hot Tub Time Machine came out 10 years ago this week. It is so weird to think about that, and it's something I'm thinking about doing more. It's just a little test right now. We'll see if we continue doing it, but thank you for your comment on that, Suthius. All right. Maiko Swayan writes, hey, John, I believe any form of entertainment, may it be cinema, comic books, TV, must and should be saved. People don't want to survive, they want to live. So hopefully any kind of help from the studios and government should happen. Stay safe. So this is going back to a topic we discussed earlier today about how do we think the studios, Universal, Paramount, Disney, Warner Brothers, should step in and help out the movie theaters as they're going through this really difficult time. My basic sentiment on it was absolutely, because they live in a symbiotic relationship. The studios cannot survive without the theaters, and the theaters cannot survive without the studios. And it is in the studios more than in the studios' best interests to make sure that the movie theaters come out of this whole situation unscathed. And Christopher Nolan himself has been making some pleas on that behalf and writing articles to support that. So listen, a lot of stuff like this isn't just about a certain business. Movies are a part of our culture. They're part of what kind of defines our culture, actually, in many ways. I mean, even the great Grand Admiral Thrawn, the way he would know how to study a culture was that he looked at their art. That's how he studied their art. John, Grand Admiral Thrawn is a fictitious character. I know. I'm just making a point. So I agree with you, Micro. So does Christopher Nolan. I think a lot of other people do. And I think if push comes to shove, you will see the studios intervene and help out the studios and help out the theaters on their behalf. I believe they will, because they know it's in their best interest to do so. All right. Johnny writes, "Hey, John and Rob, glass half full comment ahead. I live in Israel. The fact that we didn't move to DST yet, I don't know what that means, combined with the in-home status of us, all gives me a chance to watch you live, which is a huge bonus. Thanks for everything." Oh man, that's awesome. Thank you so much for tuning in and watching us. And listen, I hope the time comes real quick that you don't get to watch us live, because that means you're getting back to work and getting back to your regular life. So I'm super thrilled that you're able to watch the show live earlier today, that you did. That is awesome. But I really hope you're not watching us live for long, because that means you're getting back to work and getting back to your regular life. And then you can just watch us on repeat afterwards on YouTube. But anyway, thanks for writing that in, Johnny. It's good to have you here. All right. Movie 48 writes, "Just rewatched Spike Lee's The 25th Hour, his best film after Do the Right Thing. In my honest opinion, man, I miss Philip Seymour Hoffman." Yeah, that had Philip Seymour Hoffman. I think Barry Pepper was in it and starred Ed Norton. And if I'm remembering it right, it's the one where Ed Norton, he's just kind of living his last 24 hours before going and submitting himself to start a prison sentence. Anyway, it's a really good movie. Yeah, I still think Do the Right Thing is probably my favorite Spike Lee movie. Jungle Fever has also got a special place in my heart, but that's a good one. Yeah, Lee's 25th Hour. That one is a pretty good one, and one I haven't thought about for a while. That's a good one. Thanks for bringing that one up, Movie 48. I appreciate that. That's a good one. All right. Daniel Hinoja writes, "Do we really have to live like this for 18 months? I highly doubt it's going to be 18 months. Because, and I'm going to say something maybe a little bit controversial. Our economies just can't survive. And at some listen, right now, what we need to be doing right now is isolating as much as possible, practice social distancing, all that kind of stuff. That is what we need to be doing, not what these jackasses who are going down to the beaches and stuff. They're idiots. But that's what we need to be doing right now. That said, I do wonder where the point is that what we're doing to try to fight coronavirus is actually doing more harm than the coronavirus itself. Because at some point, whether it's 1 month from now or 3 months from now or 5 months from now or whatever, at some point, the damage that will be done by all of us living in isolation and all these businesses closed down and people being out of work and blah, 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 you can only do that for so long. And I believe we should be doing it right now, and I believe it will work, and I will believe sooner rather than later we'll be getting back to our normal lives. However, we can't go a year like this. We just can't. The world can't function that way. Economies can't function that way. Everything will be in utter chaos, and we'll be living in Mad Max land. So no, 18 months from now, we will not still be like this. But really, I completely believe we're already seeing what happens in certain countries when they take this seriously and can start to curb it, and what happens in countries when they don't. So I think we'll have this behind us sooner. By soon, I don't mean within the next couple of weeks, but sooner rather than later. All right. Hi, John and Rob. That's a great name for sending a tip. Thank you for that. I just want to say, every time I revisit Star Wars Saga in a marathon viewing, I usually skip over the prequels because I feel they did such a good job between New Hope and Return of the Jedi in telling that story. I don't need to get caught up on them. I agree. Listen, despite the fact that I don't like the prequels, take that out of it for a second. And it's hard I got to admit, it is difficult to separate your own opinion from it. But there was no reason for the prequels. Everything I knew about Vader, I already knew just from the original trilogy. I didn't need to know anything else. Everything I needed to know about Vader, I knew from the original trilogy. I really don't find that anything in the prequels enriched the original trilogy at all. Now, I'm not hardcore against prequels, because if you can do something in a prequel that adds more richness to the films that come after it, great. Personally, I never felt they did. So, although, listen, every time I talk about the prequels, I got to talk about the things that I did like about them. Like, Maul was great. The Maul Qui-Gon Obi-Wan fight's fantastic. The pod races, I know they get a lot of crap from people. I love the pod race. I thought the pod race was great. I think it's one of the most exciting, thrilling sound design scenes I've seen in movies in a long, long time. I also like the Yoda fighting. Anytime Yoda fights, I know some people hate the Yoda fights. I like the Yoda fights. So yeah, I don't like the prequels, but I feel like I need to mention the things I do like about them whenever it comes up, but that's just me. But you watch the Star Wars movies in any way that works for you. If there's a way, if watching Star Wars movies means you skip the original trilogy, I might think you're crazy, but if that's what works for you, then that's what works for you. That's the important thing. All right. Andrew Vanderpool writes, hey, John, sad story. Never grew up watching Marvel animated shows. Any recommendations? The only one that I would recommend is the original X-Men animated series. You know, the one that starts the music, like that one. That featured an awful lot of Jubilee. Nothing else has ever featured a lot of Jubilee, but that show did. So that is the one animated thing associated with Marvel that I would say go back. If I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong about this. If I'm not mistaken, I think it's available on Disney Plus. I believe the original X-Men series is available on Disney Plus. I might be wrong about that. Go and check that out. But if it is there, I highly recommend checking it out because, I mean, it's a little dated and it's a little silly, yeah. But what can I say? I had a lot of fun with it. Okay. Chad S. writes, after years of protesting The Office since Michael left, I finally binged the final episodes, probably my top 5 series finales of all time. Now trying Parks and Rec in season 2, now all I can think about is if they had done a Michael/Leslie crossover. A lot of people always wondered if they would have done that, but they didn't. First of all, Parks and Rec season 1 is by far the weakest season. Season 1 is by far the weakest season. So, and I enjoy season 1, don't get me wrong, but it is the weakest season, easily. If you got through season 1 and you're getting into season 2, it's going to get nothing but better for you. I just love that show. And as far as the finale of The Office, look, when Michael left, they had a very, very rough start to the post-Michael Scott Office. A very rough start because they made the horrible decision to focus the show on Ed Helms' character and make Andy, that's Ed Helms' character, make Andy the new manager, which made no sense. It made no sense. But they were like, ooh, well, The Hangover is really popular and Ed Helms is in The Hangover. Let's make him the centerpiece of the show. And don't get me wrong, I don't dislike Ed Helms. Don't get me wrong. But that was a terrible mistake. And they realized that fairly quickly. They realized it fairly quickly and they started to shift the show away from Andy a bit and put him back to being a supporting character. And as a supporting character, he was really good. But yeah, it was a rough start. But then it actually started getting good again. It really did. And then I thought finished very strong. The series finale for The Office was really, really good. When Dwight sees Michael and says, I can't believe you came. And then Michael, in only the Michael way, says, that's what she said. And then they hug I mean, it's a great episode. It was the perfect way to end that thing. And actually, with all the hate I was giving the Andy character, Andy had maybe either the top 1, 2, or 3 best lines of the finale. And I'm paraphrasing here, but basically he says, I wish there was a way, I wish we could realize we were living in the good old days before they're the good old days, or something like that. Basically, I wish we realized we were living in the best time and not realized it later. It's a beautiful, I'm actually getting chills and goosebumps on my arm just thinking about it. It was a beautiful moment by him. And yeah, it's a show that's finished really, really strong. All right. Jason King 007 writes, hey, John and Rob, when COVID-19 is over, do you think the major studios will cast their competitive streaks aside to team up and launch worldwide events to help celebrate a return to the cinema? Keep up the great work, you national treasures. Well, thank you so much. Hey, listen, Jason, I love the idea. It all depends on how long this goes. Like if theaters are closed for another 6 weeks, then probably not. Probably not. If the theaters are closed for another 12 weeks, maybe. And it's going to be interesting to see what movies, like when the movie theaters open back up, what movies are playing, because none of these movies have marketing campaigns right now because nobody Studios aren't going to drop $50-60 million on a marketing campaign when they don't know when the theaters are going to open. So I am very curious to know what movies are going to be in theaters the day that theaters open again. It's going to be interesting to see. But yeah, I think if it goes any longer than another, say 2 months or more, another 2 months or more, I should say, then they might do something to like, hey, let's all celebrate the movies again. And they might. And I'm all for it, Jason. I think that's a great idea. I'm all for it. All right, guys. And Initial D's comment or question came in after we finished the show. So we'll save that. We'll save Initial D's and all the other questions, of course, for the beginning of tomorrow's show. So, guys, that'll do it for this little installment of our companion videos. We're now all caught up on all the questions that got sent in during the show this morning. Thank you to everybody who sent in those questions, not just because you gave us great fun things to talk about, but also because you supported the channel while you were doing it. And all of us here on the John Campea YouTube channel, thank you for that. Don't forget the John Campea Show returns again tomorrow morning. Robert Meyer Burnett will be here once again as we talk about a whole bunch of topics and getting to your live questions. And by the way, you can do what Initial D's and a few other did. You can start sending in your questions in advance if you want by using the tip link that's in the top line of the description of this video. You can see that. It's streamelements.com/movieblogtv/tip. You can see it right there in the description. And you can fire in your question, and your question will be amongst one of the first answered on tomorrow's show. All right, guys, that will do it for me for now. Thanks a lot for being here. Guys, stay home, stay safe. If you have to go out, be smart about it. Practice social distancing. Just take care of yourselves, my friends, and take care of the people around you. That'll do it for me for now. Thanks a lot for being here. My name's John Campea, and until next time, bye-bye.